If you like JavaScript, I think you have a problem. I like TypeScript. TypeScript tries to make it's all JavaScript underneath, but the usage of the language, the strongly typed, kind of gets it closer to a more powerful modern language in my mind.
Welcome to SaaS That App, building B2B web applications, the podcast where we share real-world stories, practical advice, and tech insights for those building or thinking about starting a tech-enabled business. I'm your co-host, Aaron Marchbanks.
And I'm Justin Edwards. Each week we bring you the stories, strategies, and insights you need to build your SaaS or tech-enabled business smarter, not harder. Let's dive right in.
Hello and welcome back to SaaS That App. Today we are excited to have Matthew Benzel on the show. Matthew is CTO of DeliverThat, the leading catering delivery platform with a fleet of over 25,000 drivers across all 50 states. He has a knack for turning complex logistical challenges into sleek, scalable tech solutions. Somewhat recently, leading to the launch of DeliverThat's innovative new driver app, orchestrating major integrations with platforms like Cartwheel, and also, interestingly enough, with some deep experience in Spotify, Findaway, nearly a decade at Onosys. In leadership roles, Matthew brings a unique perspective on building high-performing tech teams and engineering solutions that power that hyper-growth. Matthew, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And with me, as always, my partner in crime, Justin Edwards, and the current debate is, are they donuts or are they vinyl records on the shirt?
Well, color-wise, they look a lot more like donuts, but they've got this kind of odd pattern that's not like got a lot of donut energy going on, so it looks kind of more like vinyl. I don't know.
Could be bagels, I suppose, too.
Could be. But anyway, this is the pattern of the shirt of the day. So,
Matthew, so your career has taken you from leadership roles at a lot of different places, Spotify, Onosys. You've been spearheading tech innovation at DeliverThat, obviously. So just the broad strokes looking back, what would you say was one of or some of the biggest challenges early on that shaped kind of your approach to building these scalable B2B web applications?
Yeah, so I think, starting out in my career, I worked at Progressive Insurance, right? Just as an entry-level software developer. And it's interesting to see like Progressive Insurance, Fortune 100 company, I think, massive organization. They'll say they are a tech company that also happens to sell insurance. You get to see like that was kind of eye-opening from the very beginning, like when you're learning in college and high school and all this stuff, playing around with small things, and then you get to see enterprise scale. That was pretty eye-opening for me. But pretty quickly after that, I kind of realized that it's like, I had this need to say, well, how do you get from 0 to 1? How do you get from the beginning to enterprise scale, right? And it's when you just get shoved right into the middle of enterprise scale, there's no context for how you get there, right? I mean, they'd been building and building and building for years and years and years and massive technology teams. So I think that was pretty foundational from just me and my journey to say like, at this moment, this isn't for me, right? And then I was on a quest for trying to find that organization that I could learn from to try to, engineer that 0 to 1 experience. I had experience at GoDaddy.com, a life insurance case management platform, and eventually landed for the majority of my career at Onosys. And they were in the online ordering game, restaurant technology game. And I learned a lot from the still current CTO there, Ryan Yonker, one of the smartest guys. I think he gets embarrassed when I feel this, but one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And it just learned a lot through building software at Onosys, and how to, manage small teams and with big impact, right? At the time, we were powering the online ordering for Applebee's, Outback Steakhouse, Carrabba's, really big brands, right? That counted on the platform. And we were a small but mighty team. And that to me kind of felt right to me, that ecosystem. And then, so I think those were kind of the foundational things for me that really gave me kind of that big company experience, small company experience, and trying to learn about building software from the ground up. And finally, with this opportunity at DeliverThat, I've been able to kind of execute on all those many years of experience.
Excellent. Yeah. And I definitely want to get into that juxtaposition or that counterpoint of, the large existing enterprise and, the small, more scrappy startup stuff. One thing I was curious about too is just looking through your experience and some of the stuff that we had talked about when we spoke last. Onosys, you're in the like restaurant digital ordering space for almost 10 years. Then little departure into the world of music and audio and kind of that industry with Findaway and Spotify, and then coming back to the food service industry. So I guess my question is, was there something about your experience or your history with food service industry that brought you back into that to solve a particular problem? Or was that just simply, an opportunity and something that you were at least a little familiar with to really kind of cut your teeth on a startup?
When I left Onosys, I received a great offer from Findaway to come be the head of technology and lead a team. At the moment felt like a good shift for me, like something that really removed me out of my comfort zone. And it really did. You spend 10 years at a place, it's hard to not be comfortable, right? And I feel like there's just a little bit of magic in that being uncomfortable, because it really motivates you to realize that you know everything there, but you don't know everything here. And it's really motivating. But what I learned, so Findaway was eventually acquired by Spotify. It was a B2B audiobook distributor, right? With other facets to it, but that's the main core component. And it powered a lot of Audible competitors effectively, right? And so Spotify acquired that to power their audiobook journey. And as anybody can go and listen to audiobooks now on Spotify, and the core engine behind that is the Findaway engine. But what I learned in that whole experience, and even just at Findaway at Spotify, is like, you don't know this until you get into it. I was managing a team of people that had been building something for years. And my core experience was above the fold, and really, like, it was uncomfortable to not know how everything works, right? And so I really like processed that mentally. And then what led me back to DeliverThat really was because one of the founders I had met while I worked at Onosys. I had 10 years of experience just not only developing software at Onosys, but the networking, the connections, the operations, the dealing with customers that, rounded me out as, I think, a professional in the space. And it was familiar, but I got to do this new challenge that I've never done before, which is, hey, take all of that, come back kind of into the restaurant tech world and kind of build from scratch effectively, right? DeliverThat operating as a profitable, successful company, but just kind of stitching together different technologies. And that felt right to me at the time. So, and again, Spotify, great company, great engineering organization, thousands of engineers all across the world, global experience, right? Truly global company, which is amazing. But again, similar experience kind of to the progressive world, where it's like, I'm just, in the middle of this. Audiobooks is just a minor fraction of what Spotify is. I like impact. I like the small world. And I feel like I can bring a lot more to this DeliverThat organization just because of all the other experience I have in the industry. So that's kind of, my thought process through this whole thing.
Yeah. So when we talked about this last time we were on a call, you used a term or a phrase that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted you to unpack a little bit for the listeners. You described yourself coming back now into DeliverThat as founder adjacent. Which I thought was a pretty unique way to kind of frame that role. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and why you feel founder adjacent as opposed to founder or CTO level?
So I think, this is kind of something I like to self-reflect a lot and thinking about what am I good at, what am I not, and leveraging my strengths if I can, and doubling down on those. And throughout your career, everybody learns more and more about themselves, what roles are good for them. Maybe they overextended themselves. You hear a lot about developers that become managers and they're terrible managers. So I think for me, just self-realization, I've never been a founder, right? I've never founded a company. I've always kind of wanted to, but I think I've realized I'm just, over the years, just risk averse, right? I got wife and 3 kids, right? And it's like, ooh, what if this doesn't work? Now I've got 4 other people that depend on me. But I do have valuable skills, right? I have valuable skills and a lot of experience, and I think I can help. I can be adjacent to those risk takers and I can help them along the way, right? And I think that's a perfectly valid thing to be for an individual. You don't have to be the founder. You can still contribute and create a lot of success as an adjacent member. So the DeliverThat was founded, many years ago, right? I'm far removed from that, but we're now going into a technology transformation in this company, and that's where I can add value, right?
Yeah, business is absolutely a team sport. And I think this dynamic emerges a lot of the time where you kind of have people who are a little bit yin and yang, kind of counterbalancing each other. Maybe one person is foot on the gas, and the other person is saying, like, hey, we got to mitigate risks and kind of control this thing a little bit. Has that played out in your experience, or is that one of your kind of values being founder adjacent, is to play that role a little bit more? You mentioned you're a little bit conservative.
I mean, I think so. Like, if you talk to a lot of founders, right? They just want to go, go, go. They're willing to roll the dice. They're willing to try something. And, in the tech, when you're building technology, we all know, right? It's like, well, what about security? What about compliance? What about scalability? Have we thought about all of these things that, yes, we can do it. However, we have to consider the other side of the coin, right? So I like to play devil's advocate, and I don't want to slow down anybody, right? I want to go as fast as possible too, but I want to do it in a controlled manner, right?
Go slow to go fast kind of methodology.
Yeah, it's definitely a yin and yang though. There are times when we can step on the gas, and there are times when it's like, this is going to take a little bit more careful approach.
So what was your progression between kind of starting off as like a software developer and moving into increasing in more and more leadership and management style roles? Was that a pretty natural, normal progression, or were there several big jumps? Kind of how did that unfold in your career?
Yeah, so that whole evolution pretty much happened when I worked at Onosys. I started at Onosys as a senior software engineer. Within a year, the company was working on selling to Living Social. And I think there was 3 founders, and I think they were ready to kind of ride off into the sunset as soon as their agreements with the transition period ended. So they were looking for transition plans, right? And I think the combination of just the skills I brought from a technical expertise, plus just the management, soft skills, communication, and relationships, and whatever you need to become a manager. I think they saw in me, and they asked me if I wanted a management role, and I said, I pretty much said yes immediately, right? Because I felt like that's more growth, that more learning, that's something new for me. And I just want to keep finding that something new. And it kind of just escalated from there. So I started managing the software development team. And then through that experience, now I'm managing all of our vendors, right? Like, you just progress it over the timeline. Now I'm dealing with, at the time, you're hosted in rack space, right? So managing servers, managing environments. So that's kind of how, and then I'm doing PCI compliance, which is a complete nightmare. But then you start, well, something's wrong or something new feature needs to be added. Now I'm interfacing with the customer, right? And so I'm getting more and more customer interactions, and now we're visiting customers. And now, because I helped build a lot of this, now I'm on the sales pitch, right? And so now I'm doing selling, and now I'm like the sales engineer. And then eventually that turned into, like, I had a title for a moment of chief operating officer as well. So I was actually managing kind of a little bit of both sides of the house, right? I was managing our client success folks, which were really trying to just deliver good service to our merchant partners, right? So for me, it was about it's a land grab of experience. I'm also playing that founder adjacent kind of role here, just based on my experience. So,
well, and the nature of the team too, the smallness, that's obviously a feature, of startups, is you almost have to have everybody wearing multiple hats and taking on those different roles in order to be successful. And it's important who is actually wearing the hats, as I'm sure that you well know. So how did those conversations get started? I mean, just kind of rewinding a little bit to the beginnings of like a startup, like DeliverThat. Obviously there's a lot of trust between you and the founder, to even call yourself founder adjacent, to be able to allow you these different growth opportunities. Certainly has to be a lot of trust there. And I know that that's something that gets built over time. But how do those conversations begin? Your founder comes to you, there is an idea, you feel like you can help move the ball forward, and it started with technology, great. So back to what Justin was saying, how do you become the one that can successfully get traction, tapping the brakes a little bit and focusing the attention of the founder where it needs to be to build something that's successful?
The word you use, trust, it's all about that. Okay. It's like literally 100% about trust. The founder has, our founders own the majority of this business. They took small amount of capital in the beginning and pretty much bootstrapped it from then on out. Right. So they have, a huge skin in the game. Right. And so it's hard when you own something to say, here, you do this, right? Instead of me do this, right? And I understand that challenge from the founder perspective, right? So it really is about building that trust and that confidence that I got this, right? I know what I'm doing. You can look at all my experience. You can talk to anybody in this industry. You should feel confident, right? But that takes time. And so specifically in our scenario here at DeliverThat, I had just stayed in touch with Aaron Hoffman, one of the founders, since we met at Onosys. It started with some coffee here, some coffee there, just meeting and Aaron just picking my brain. And at that point in time, Aaron realized, right? Like we've capped out with the current use of technology that we have. And he knows we need to do something better. He was literally willing to just stop being the CEO and start being the CTO. He was just going to go teach himself how to code, and which he had a little bit of experience in and dabbled in, but he was just going to be like, I'm just going to do this because this is what it requires. This is the new hat I'm going to wear. We started talking about that. And I think, just conversations progressed and we realized that, hey, I can help you at some level. I could prove myself to you. And like, I actually wrote an integration for them, contracted on the side, that actually semi-transformed the revenue for the business. And that's the trust, right? He said, oh, this guy can do that. I couldn't do that fast. This guy can, right? So you build, trust is earned over and over and over and over and over. It's a constant thing. You build up the trust, and then you're able to have really open and candid conversations about the company, right? And it's just, like, literally anything that matters, it can be said. No feelings are going to be hurt. You need to have that understanding early on. And if you do, you can have tough conversations like that. And because I had over the time here built up that trust, when I say I'm concerned about something, they will pump the brakes and be like, okay, we got to listen, right? And when I say, let's go fast, they're like, all right, let's go, right? And so, but it truly is that yin and yang. It's like, we want to drive pace, we want to go faster, but we want to do it in the most careful way we possibly can, right? I'm a big fan of just, let's just release the MVP. Like, what's the minimum viable amount of work we need to do? And then we'll iterate, because we're going to learn something along the way. And so I really preach to our team, do not over-engineer things, right? I don't know if it needs to scale that way yet. Like, we'll find out. We'll hit some gray areas where we're going to need to, maybe throw in some emergency projects to scale something, right? Better than it is scaling now. But we don't know that we need to do that yet. So let's not do it. Let's add value to the business incrementally. So
that's something that we preach a lot too, is, let your user base, help drive the innovation in the feature set rather than trying to guess what it is you think they're going to want. Put a lot of time and effort into it, and then you find out, well, that wasn't so great, but here you do still have this great feature. So yeah, it's always nice to fill that out. So talk to me, you mentioned your team several times. Presumably you did not just, land on having a team of engineers and marketing people, salespeople. Talk to me just a little bit about how you approached building this team. Was the idea, engineers first because we want to be able to have a solid foundation? Was it marketing first so that we could kind of get out there, with that MVP and start gathering information? How do you go about building that solid base of a team?
You can't overextend yourself. You have to, the multiple hats things becomes really important. The first people you hire become really important. So it started off effectively as I'm joining the team and inheriting a junior developer, right? So right off the bat, we don't have senior outside of myself, senior development skills. So I'm mentoring, all good. Tristan is a very good learner, very eager learner. And he was, I think, quintessential what you want as a junior developer, somebody hungry, willing to put in the effort, willing to learn and whatever. So that was great for the team, right? And he had so much business knowledge because he used to be a dispatcher in the company and everything. So he rounded out like the business knowledge of our team. And then it's about, as we need to do more, I'm thinking about first, just a senior developer, right? I just need somebody with full stack experience. And let me back up one second. The technology we chose was Node.js. I know there was previous podcast episodes throwing shade around on Node.js, but I'm a fan.
I didn't realize that I had been public about my disdain for Node.js. I thought that was...
It's in a podcast. I saw it. I'm just raising my hand to defend.
I actually don't hate Node.js. I dislike when people go into Mongo when they need a relational database. I don't know if you have a take on that.
Yeah. I mean, I do. So I'll get. So we're using Node.js, but I don't like JavaScript per se. I don't know how you can say I like. If you like JavaScript, I think you have a problem. I like TypeScript. TypeScript tries to make Java. It's all JavaScript underneath, but the usage of the language, the strongly typed, kind of gets it closer to a more powerful modern language in my mind.
Yeah, the Angular way of doing things right now, like at least for my limited capacity intellectually, is the most sensible way to do JavaScript. All these components and how it's organized makes sense to my brain, and having TypeScript on top of that to enforce some order on the crazy mess that's JavaScript is fantastic. Obviously, that's front end, not back end, but anyway.
Right. But I mean, but similar, like the whole point is I wanted a full, like I'm trying to find what's the most economical way to do this, considering we have to grow profitably and whatnot. So let's find full stack developers. Okay. So let me think about the platform, right? Okay. If I can find people that can do TypeScript well on the back end and also dabble on React and in the future, React Native on the front end. And by the way, and this is, I'll get into, and so we use Postgres relational database. So yes, I'm on the same page as you there. I come from a background, every enterprise platform I've ever used is using a relational database kind of behind the scenes. And then you sprinkle in your document NoSQL type databases for very specific other use cases around your platform. I feel like we're dealing with transactional data. Like I need a relational database.
Most people do, actually. It's actually the right answer for 99% of use cases.
And that's actually a question I ask every time I interview somebody. I ask, give me your thoughts on Mongo versus, relational database. Pick your flavor, right? And just see what they say and see how their thought process works, right? All right, so where was I? So anyways, trying to build a team, right? And then the next hire for me was director of product, somebody I used to work with. His name is Matt Pavkov at Onosys, and he just brings a lot of organization, right? Because once now you got a bunch of developers, and now you have a bunch of work, and now you need a bunch of requirements, and it's like, well, who's writing all the requirements, and who's making sure that we're doing the right thing, and that it actually does what we said we wanted it to do.
Prioritization at that stage is
all the
crazy hard. Mm-hmm.
So we needed more on that effort, right? So now that became our team of 4. And then it just kind of like more developers. And eventually I got to the point where it said, like, I can't do the above the fold work as a CTO and do the in the weeds work as the management at the same time. Like the context switching for me is some people can do that. And so that's when I said, okay, I need somebody to help me manage the devs, right?
Sure, you're familiar with Paul Graham's kind of model on this, which is make your time and manage your time. And for those of us who tend to have a day that's split up into 30-minute increments or 1-hour increments, you can't get any real work done in that amount of time. So switching between is horrific.
Yeah, and there was this period of time that I would just literally block out my calendar for the first 5 hours of the day. And I said, stand up starts at 1 p.m., right? I mean, it's like, and I need and then after stand up, you can go ahead and load me up with meetings. But before that, I need a code because we need to get stuff out. We need to ship it. So I needed that focus time. And it was actually like got agreement from the founders and everything. That's what's beautiful when you can explain the problems to your founder and your founder understands what's going on. It really can run interference for you, right?
That's a beautiful, beautiful trick. And for anyone listening who is struggling with maker manager time, if you can identify chunks of your day and then get buy-in from management and from your team to keep those sacred for you, it's a really good way to solve that problem.
Yeah, they talk. So I did this one. I'll talk about a quick exercise that when I started at the company that I made everybody, in the leadership team do, right? And it's really simple. And I learned this from a Scrum class about context switching. It's really there's 4 names on the screen and they all are 4-letter names. It's like Adam, Aaron, Mary, whatever, right? And just, okay, now write those names, but switch between 1 letter at a time between each name. So write the M for Mary, write the E for Aaron, write the A for Adam, and then see how long it takes you to write all 4 names down. Okay. Next slide, 4 new names, same size, words, whatever. Now try to write them in sequence, 1 name after another. See how fast you can get it done. And it's just a microcosm of context switching, right? You can get the 4 names, if you do them all one at a time, done really fast, seconds. And the other one, it's like 3-4 times as long to I got to think about the next letter and I got to write that in. I got to think about the next letter and I got to write that in. And it's a microcosm for what focus powers, right? Look how fast I can go if I'm focused on one thing for hours on a time. And I think that exercise really clicked. I try to do that exercise for anybody unfamiliar to really explain why it's important to bring focus to the development team. So I don't know if I got through all the building of a team, but we're right now we are a team of 9. We do have a lot of another facet of this is we hired a good portion of most of our development team is actually in Brazil. Similar time zone. We can all work similar hours. Everybody's working remotely. And so that's obviously another facet of building a team and knowing that this is going to be a remote first workforce for the tech team and dealing with the dynamics of that. So you just got to really think about that from the ground up.
Yeah. Could you speak to communication, working with folks who are potentially not native English speakers?
Yeah. So that's obviously, if I'm counting on an individual and we're a small team that needs to interface with, you need to wear all those hats. You're going to need to talk to people in the operations team and the sales team and whatever. That was a pretty necessary requirement on my side when I was interviewing to make sure they could speak good English, right? So it was required in this role to be able to speak English. So
do you do anything on an ongoing basis though to be extra supportive or extra communicative with folks who are not native English speakers?
Yeah, so we do have some that are a handful of our team. We have some really good ones and they can speak really good English, and some that are still, I would say they're fluent, but still grasping the nuances of the English. What I think has been helpful for our team is when we do stand-ups and everything, especially in the early days, there was a lot of the part of the stand-up was not hey, give me your status, whatever. But then we're just here as people communicating with each other, getting more comfortable with each other. And it ended up turning into a lot of cultural nuance between Portuguese and Brazilian culture and English and the United States culture, right? And so oftentimes you'd say a phrase and then you'd think, oh crap, they probably have no idea what that means because that's, something that's unique to us. But then you get to go pick it apart and explain it to them, and then they'll do the same thing, right? And so it's this beautiful cultural experience in my mind that you get to just in a safe manner expose your culture and they're exposing their culture, and it's making us a tighter knit group along the way. And I think that is helping. They're having to, a couple of them have admitted that it's they're fried at the end of the day because they're not used to speaking English all day. They're used to speaking Portuguese all day. So having to sit here and focus on English all day long is actually mentally draining, right? And so you acknowledge all these things and you're like, oh yeah, I guess I never really thought about that because I actually don't speak Portuguese. We also got to go down in October last year, but we brought everybody on our team and went down to Brazil and got everybody together in Rio. Just really this is the first time we've been working with everybody for a while, never met in person. we stayed right on Copacabana Beach, and just, I felt like I had to advocate for that for the founders. I'm like, this is going to cost a lot of money, but this is going to be important for the team. Like, we're trying to build bonds here, and we're trying to make sure that we can all trust each other. We're all counting on each other, and we're going to build big things together. And I think, as much as we're a remote team, and that's cool, like, there's nothing like the human, face-to-face contact.
Absolutely. I am all smiles here, man, because I'm, aside from it being a big part of the role that I play in our business, it's something that I have always felt is just of critical importance. I mean, it's one thing to be very good at what it is that you do, and be oriented and process driven and task motivated and things along those lines. But I feel it's at the very least equally, if not more important, for the sake of building a strong team and a resilient team, and some, this trust that we've talked about through the podcast here. It's critical that you know who it is that's on your team, what's important to them. And it could be goofy stuff, fun stuff, movies that you like, stories that you tell, or to your point, the cultural nuances that have to get explained, because a lot of times it even makes the person explaining them think about it in a different way too. And that in-person meeting, which of course, COVID kind of just crushed for the longest time, getting to know the person on the ground, face to face, not across a vid screen, is so important in my mind to building teams that can scale and that do rely on each other and provide that support. So I'm really, really excited to always hear that sort of thing and those sorts of stories. I really enjoy those.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. And we try to do, like, a little bit of 50-50, where it's like, hey, well, we're in Brazil. Like, I want to go see Sugarloaf Mountain and the Christ the Redeemer statue, and, go to the beach. But like, wow, this is a work trip. So like, you have to build that balance here, right? But like, who's planning it? No one but us, right? And so it's like, we don't have an event coordinator or anything like that. So it's, add that onto the hat, right? Event planner, right? Like, but and that's just what happens in small teams. And I think there's a lot of fun in having to take on just some of this random odd work that's just not really falling into your purview.
Kind of a fun anecdote. I spend a lot of time in Mexico, and I work with people who speak fluent English a lot. But I was texting with somebody who was working with me on something, and I said, "Okay, Roger," and he responded, "No, this is Eduardo." It's like, oh, because why would I expect that you would know that, even though you speak fluent English, right? I mean, he spoke perfectly fluent English, but it's just those little tiny nuances are so funny, and they're fun to experience together and then learn from each other as well.
So it's just so fun. And I think it's hard to say, like, how do you put a number on that what is that worth to the business? Like, I can't put a number on it, right? I just can't. It's a feeling, it's a gut, you can see it and you can sense it after the fact. Everybody was so energized on the team just coming out of that trip. And everybody was like refocused and ready to go.
But it shows up in weird ways. Like, we don't have turnover. It's hard to put a number on the turnover that we didn't have. It's hard to put, our team members are happy and they are focused and try to do a good job at work, and they're proactive about bringing up problems and trying to collaborate to solve. Like, you can't tag a number to that, but when team members are engaged and happy and like one another, the intangibles are, well, when they're not around you notice them and they show up in numbers, but when they're there, they're pretty invisible.
Yeah. And I don't want to jinx anything here by recording this as for wordings on the podcast here, but like, I haven't had any turnover at DeliverThat. Like, no one is on my team has left, right? Now, it's small sample size. We're talking about 9 total people, but I feel proud of that. So, and I think and to your point, part of it is, I think that's a good stat to lean on to say, well, is anybody left? And are we still delivering value to the company? And are we accomplishing our milestones and whatnot? Yeah. Well, there's value there.
Exactly. So Matthew, last thing from me, just looking ahead, DeliverThat or something else. We've had a number of guests and a lot of chatter, of course, in the industry, things moving into the space of AI, microservices, higher level and higher degrees of integration. So what's next for DeliverThat? Anything in that space or something else?
Yeah. So we do talk a lot about AI. I mean, I feel like, how can you not? It's it's shoved in your face and everything, right? My general take, our platform, just the technology, is still very infant, right? I mean, we've been building it for the last 2.5 years. And there's still some foundational things that, like, we need to complete. We're working on a very big project right now related to that. And then the balance, like the second half of this year, is going to be feature sets for our customer base, right? And it's going to really focus on that, right? And I would say going into 2026, that's when it's more about collecting the data. AI is useless without a good foundational data set, right? And we do collect a ton of data, and we could collect a lot more, right? Are we leveraging the data the way we need to right now? No, absolutely not. And I do think there's some really good use cases for in DeliverThat world for AI around, I'm going to say more machine learning than AI, matchmaking jobs to drivers, right? Like actually just given the metro that you're in, the jobs that are coming in this metro, and the driver pool that you have, and all the stats related to these drivers, and all of the stats related to the job. How much does it cost? Like, does this driver have the right equipment? We do catering delivery. If this is a $2,000 delivery, like, can you deliver that in a Toyota Corolla? Probably not.
Not unless it's caviar.
Right. So yeah. So like all of that's to me a machine learning model, right? But where the AI piece comes in to me is really like, I feel like the support element, right? Where it's like, where's my delivery? Somebody calls on the phone, where's my delivery? It's like, yeah, I can have a conversation with you about it, listen to you, query whatever it needs to do, the data set, and really help scale our support. I think there's some use cases there. Everybody on our team uses Cursor for development, kind of like AI assisted development. I've been looking for ways to try to figure out how do we shortcut some of the UI development, because I think the server side architecture is a much more complicated ecosystem to work in than kind of the front end components. Can we build an ecosystem where we could work more manually on the back end and create APIs and have the front end generated for us, right? Those are the things from a efficiency standpoint, force multiplier standpoint that we're looking into. And it's just kind of like, give a budget to the team. You want to try a tool? Try it, and report back. Like, this is a retrospective thing. Is it working for you? Is it not? So we actually host retrospectives on our team every month. We just talk about what's working, what's not working. And actually the last retrospective was completely around like, are we doing enough with AI? Should we try something different? How's everybody's Cursor experience? What can you maximize? How can you get better usage out of it? So that's kind of our AI ML take as it stands right now.
Well, Matthew, this has been extremely informative. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your talents with us. We've been talking with Matthew Benzel, who's the CTO of DeliverThat. Matthew, where and how can people reach you?
I would say the best place, I'm on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, Chief Technology Officer at DeliverThat. You'll find me. So feel free to connect.
Hey, Matthew, it's been a fantastic pleasure, and we'll have to have you back on to go a couple rounds about Node.js.
Yes.
Give it a couple months.
All right.
So yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
The throwdown is there. Justin, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Special thanks as always to our listeners. If you like what you're hearing, have ideas for the show, or just want to tell us what's on your mind, throw a review our way. Hit that subscribe button if you are inclined, and we'll see you all next time on SaaS That App. Thanks for cruising along with us on SaaS That App. We hope you grabbed some insights that were inspiring, actionable, or at least entertaining.
If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep those apps sassy.